Meeting will come to order. Clerk, call the roll.
Mayor Manning.
Present.
Councilman Petroselli.
Present.
Councilman McGrowdy.
Present.
Would the clerk please read the minutes from our last meeting?
Mayor, I'll make the motion that we dispense the minutes of the previous meeting as read.
I second that.
Accepting the minutes as is. Call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli.
In favor?
Councilman McGrowdy.
In favor.
Mayor Manning.
In favor. We're going to move to reports from officers and committees.
Your Honor, this evening we do not have any reports from officers and committees.
As he looks. But we do have a guest speaker.
We do in old business. Tonight we have a presentation by Katie from Mega in regards to the Community Choice Aggregation Residential Electricity Program.
Katie, take it away.
Thank you. Do I need a microphone? Is that okay?
I can hear you.
Hi everyone, my name is Katie Vecchio. I'm with the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance, and I'm here tonight to talk to you about Community Choice Aggregation. This is a new residential and small business electricity buying program that the city is exploring with Mega. So I'm just going to go over briefly what the program is and how it works, and then I'll take questions so everyone gets a good sense of what it would look like, and then from there fire away. Community choice aggregation, first and foremost, is a group purchase of electricity. All right, we're talking about aggregating the residential households in Watervliet that are eligible, along with small businesses that use under a certain threshold of power, and joining with other municipalities in the area. We have 12 other municipalities that are participating and going out to bid for electricity as a group. The concept is pretty simple. You as your own home and the electricity that you use as a unit, going out on the market to purchase, to get a price for what you use, you're a small home. When you join with lots of other units, we can drive down the cost per unit, per kilowatt hour of electricity. So it's this concept of increasing your individual buying power by working together as a community and joining with other communities that are doing the same thing. Before we get into how the program would work, I like to just show an example of a utility bill. So this is, a pretty simplified version. This is nobody's bill. Just to give you an example, if you look at your National Grid bill at home, you'll see this is simplified because you've probably got gas on there too, but we're not talking about gas, we're just talking about electricity. National Grid charges you for delivery of your electricity as well as the supply. So they're charging to get the electrons to your home and for how many electrons you use. CCA is only going to impact that supply portion of your bill. National Grid will continue to bill you. You'll only get one bill. They will be responsible for delivery, which means if there's a power outage or a downline in your neighborhood, they're still coming out to fix it, and they're going to still charge you for that in the delivery portion of your bill. What CCA does is it drives down this cost per kilowatt hour for the supply. So however much electricity you use in your home, right now, the price you pay for that electricity, you don't know what that will be until you open your bill. So the electrons you're using today to watch television and turn on the lights, you will be billed for that next month and at a rate that they will tell you when you open your bill. And that's because of the way that the utility company has to purchase electricity. They buy it as you need it, and whatever price they pay is the price they pass to you. So they aren't able to take advantage of market lows the way that an energy services company or an ESCO can. And that's what we're talking about with CCA. The Public Service Commission in the late 90s says, okay, you don't have to buy your electric supply from your utility company anymore. You can go out and shop. And we know this because we get cards in the mail, we get called during dinner. There's lots of companies out there that want to sell us electricity. And when deregulation happened and people could go out and shop for their supply on the market, that was great for a lot of users that used a lot of electricity because they had something to bargain with when they went out to shop. They had a reason that folks selling them electricity that they would want to get them a good deal. Residential customers really didn't get a good deal out of that, and a lot of predatory ESCOs showed up in the marketplace which may sign you up at a certain rate and you'll find a couple months later escalate. Has anyone had an experience like this, or you know somebody that has? I have friends that do this. This happened to my own father who lives in another state. So it can happen in this attempt to shop and get a good price that you don't get a good deal. So CCA is designed to guard against this. With the program called Community Choice Aggregation, we do a group purchase and we force competition in the market. So instead of you shopping among the different energy services companies that solicit you, we are going out and saying, here are 40,000 households in the capital region participating. Compete against each other to give us your best price. So we're driving down the price, the cost per kilowatt hour that everyone is going to get by working as a group. We're also able to get better electric rates. That's the goal in that. We also get a fixed rate. All right. Right now, if you look at your bill, and you look at your bill 2 months ago and a year ago, the price per kilowatt hour is always different, right? Because the market's always changing. The price you'll get through a community choice aggregation program is stable, and it doesn't change over the course of the program, which can be 2 to 3 years. A reason that a lot of communities in the capital region are approaching my organization about community choice aggregation is because your elected officials can decide when they offer the program to the community to offer 100% renewable energy as the default option for everyone in the city. And for communities that have a priority of supporting renewable electricity and going green and meeting their clean energy goals as a community, that's a really attractive feature. And individually, if any of you have tried to shop for renewable energy and seen pricing, CCA offers a way to get a much more competitive rate for renewable electricity. It's an option as part of the program. And it's a way that you all can decide locally if that's a priority, that's something you want to go for, versus if it isn't, that's something you can decide to. And the last one that I talked about, the protection from predatory practices of telemarketers and door-to-door sales. We know this happens in the community. It's frustrating. CCA doesn't put anyone out of business, but what it does is helps educate residents. So what I do several evenings a week is go and talk to residents just like you all and help people look at their bill and understand it a little more. Whether or not Watervliet chooses to do a community choice aggregation program, our goal is to help residents understand their electricity choices so that they can make better informed decisions. And CCA is about giving people another option. Okay. So this is how CCA will work in this area if the city decides to move forward. The first step has already been taken. The city's looked at the options for CCA administrators and chosen my organization, the Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance, as the administrator. Now this doesn't mean that CCA will happen in Watervliet. What it means is that if you move forward with a community choice aggregation program, that you'll work with my organization. And it's because as soon as that agreement was signed, and the city voted to approve it, I went out and started doing this kind of thing. We set up some radio advertisements to help spread the word about CCA. I go out in the community and do presentations. We help residents learn about CCA. And this is called Education and Outreach, and it's a mandated portion of the program by the Public Service Commission. And the regulators want us to go out for 60 days and educate the public. The third step is part of the local law approval process at the city. There will be a public hearing, and the city will decide to enact a local law enabling CCA to happen in the city. The fourth step, once we have Watervliet, we also have Niskayuna, New Scotland, Guilderland, Bethlehem, all the other communities that have said, yes, we're going to do this. We've made a local law. Our intentions are to go forward with this program. We go out to bid. We aggregate all of the households within the communities that are eligible, and we go out to the marketplace and ask suppliers to give us competitive rates and at different terms, at different time lengths. Finally, we evaluate the bids, select the supplier that will offer both a 100% renewable rate as well as just a standard grid mix of standard electricity rate as well. That's where the city will decide. Those rates look good, we're in, we want to do this, or you know what, we don't like this, we want to back away, No hard feelings, never is. It's always up to the municipal officials to decide whether they want to proceed at that step. After that, we go back out in the community. I'll be back, or Louise will be back, or someone from our team will come out, because that's when residents really want to know, how much will this cost? What is the price? What is that number on my bill going to be? And we'll know that after we see the bids. We do another round of education and outreach, and then step 6 is everyone who's eligible in the city gets a letter. It's on city letterhead, but it's mailed by the supplier, so there's no mailing, there's no stamping, there's none of that happening here. Every eligible household will get a letter that says this is what's going to happen. If you don't want to participate, you can opt out. CCA is an opt-out program. That's what I get most of the calls about. Why is this opt-out? Don't make this decision for me. Let me join if I want to join. And the reason is because of step 4. We're going out to bid with a community of a certain size. And the suppliers can assume a certain dropout rate, but we're going to them asking for a price knowing how big a community is. With opt-in, that's really what we have now. I can buy, you can buy, we can all, people on my block can go and buy electricity from the same supplier, but that doesn't give us the competition and the price driving down the way that CCA does. After you get that letter in the mail, you can mail back a card, go on the website, or call. 3 different ways to opt out, and it's open for 30 days before the program even begins. Once the program begins, eligible households that did not opt out are enrolled, and at any time over the course of the program, and this is what's very different from shopping on your own with an ESCO, you can opt out of the program any month that you like. You can also opt back in if you decide you want to get back in. There's never a fee to join, there's never a penalty to leave, and we make it very open and flexible for new residents that move into the area or for people who've been participating in the CCA for a year and want to get out. So the goal with CCA is to offer another option to residents that hasn't been available before. This is that opt-out letter, simple, no postage required to reply, mail, by phone, online. We also put Mega's hotline number so that you can call and ask me or my colleagues questions about the program as you're deciding to opt out. And you may have neighbors that never come to a meeting to hear a presentation and want to find out more. We have resources available on the web, and we've had a lot of press coverage locally. So we really want to foster that education about what the program is, what the process is, and how people can participate. The last thing I'll point out, the additional choices that community members have. Once your elected officials have made the choice of whether to offer the default 100% renewable electricity or default just the standard grid mix, individual households not only can decide if they want to stay in or opt out, they can decide if they want to opt up or opt down. So if you get the default traditional grid mix, I as a homeowner can say, I want to opt up. I want to support renewable, and I'll bump up to that price. Or this community has chosen renewables. That's great. I'd rather save half a penny a kilowatt hour or whatever the price ends up being and choose the standard grid mix. So we make it as flexible as possible for residents to choose the option that suits them best. That's the program in a 10, 12-minute presentation. There's obviously a lot more to it, but I'm happy to take questions, answer any questions you may have. Oh, sure.
How does your company make money?
Okay, so my company, we're a nonprofit organization. The Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance acts as an administrator. And when we do the bid, we ask the suppliers that are giving us pricing to include our fee in the price. So it's not a fee that the residents pay, the utility doesn't pay us, the supplier pays us for if they win the bid. It's included in what the rate is that people pay on their electric bill. So we're paid by the supplier.
So it's safe to say that you're making a profit, National Grid's making a profit, and the consumer's getting hosed?
I wouldn't say that at all. Right now, National Grid is not permitted in law to make money off of selling you electricity, right? Their job is to own and operate the infrastructure, right? They are allowed to charge you a fee for the trouble it takes them to go to the marketplace and procure your electricity for you. It's down there at the bottom where it says merchant function charge. They are acting as your agent, as this organization would, and charging 0.0027483, and that changes every month as well. This is 0.00274. Mega's fee is 0.001. We have a very low rate because we're a nonprofit organization. We're on a shoestring budget. We're run by a board of directors that is unpaid, and they are all local government officials. They are all volunteer. So I make money because, you know, I leave my kids and come and make presentations, so I'm not a volunteer. But this operation is run by an organization that's focused on serving local governments and serving residents.
Where are they located?
Mega was started in Ithaca, New York. That's where headquarters are, and they have individuals from the southern tier to, what's that region? Leatherstocking region. I'm local in the capital region, as are my 2 colleagues that also work on this program. So we're only in New York State.
What's their background, electricity?
Municipal Electric and Gas Alliance was started by 2 county legislators from Tompkins and Tioga County in order to help local governments procure their energy in a more cost-effective way. Because following deregulation, the same problem that everyone had, they thought, what's going to happen to our energy costs? And we're local governments and we run on tax dollars. How are we going to pay for this? Mega was started as a bi-county partnership, and it has grown to over 30 counties and hundreds of municipalities that participate. CCA is a new program of Mega, and we're one of 3 licensed CCA administrators in the state. Yeah.
You had thrown out a number for the difference between renewable and non-renewable energy. Do you think that's a realistic number? Do you have maybe I know you said whatever it may be, so you know.
Yeah, it's so hard to know what rates we're going to get when we do the bid. And so the only example I can point to is the only other CCA that's operating in the state that we're running, which is in the southern tier. And 21 communities participate, and we went to bid a year ago in the spring. The price for electricity was just over 5 cents a kilowatt hour for the standard grid mix, and it was about 5.4 cents a kilowatt hour, 4.7 for renewables. So that's the only example we have. I can't say that the prices we'll get for the capital region. We're in a different region. We are able to organize CCAs in New York State by load zone. Right here we are, and we're in load zone F. That's organized by the independent system operator, the ISO, and we are in national grid territory. So any communities in this load zone that are served by NYSEG, which is a different utility, they can't participate. It's just the way that energy is delivered to residents and businesses in these communities. That's the way we have to bid it, because pricing is different. Just like pricing is different down in Con Ed territory, down in the city of Westchester.
I have a question.
Yeah.
What other municipalities in the capital region have entered into the CCA administration agreements?
Okay, so as far north as the city of Glens Falls, city of Saratoga Springs was the first to sign. They did it several years ago before any other communities were interested. The village of Kinderhook, the village of Voorheesville, village of Altamont just signed a couple of weeks ago. Let's see. I mentioned the town of Niskuna, New Scotland, Bethlehem. I'm always forgetting some. I'm headed over to Troy tonight because they're going to vote this evening. There may be a few more join. Niskuna, said that.
Did you say Gildan?
I said Gilderland. So Gilderland, New Scotland, and Bethlehem were the first 3 that kind of said, let's work together and do this, and that's kind of what kicked it off, the interest from the other municipalities.
So I think you first mentioned Glens Falls, right?
Yes.
North, and that was a few years back?
Glens Falls is the furthest north, but the first one to sign an administration agreement with Mega in the capital region was the city of Saratoga Springs.
And where are they with respect to the program?
They're having the same kind of meeting we're having tonight.
Why is it taking so long for them?
For them, well, we had to build an aggregation. We had to get other communities in this region interested in doing it. And our organization started, so when CCA was enabled in New York State in April 2016, the brakes got thrown on it because the PSC decided or realized that they didn't have any data security protections in place for residents. And we're dealing with residents' utility numbers, their data, their home, how much electricity they use. So the PSC put the brakes on the development of CCA in New York State until they could develop regulations governing how we have to keep customer data secure. So that slowed it down quite a bit because we could do nothing until last year this time. And once we did, we went to bid for the 21 communities in the southern tier and started their aggregation in July.
Is there a number of municipalities that need to adopt a local law in order for you to move forward?
There isn't a number of municipalities, but there's a number of households, and we've met that threshold. We need to get to 40,000 households, which we've done. So the local law, we need 40,000 households to get, to go out to bid, and we have more than that. Not every municipality that signed the administration agreement has done their local law yet. Niskayuna has. Last night, I was in Voorheesville, and they had their public hearing. So the municipalities are in their local law process now, and the deadline is by the end of January to have the communities enact their local law so we can put the bid together.
January of this year?
Well, January 2020, yeah, coming up.
Sometime in January.
Mhm.
Excuse me, that's what I meant. Sometime in
Yes,
January.
yeah, no, that's okay.
Thank you.
How often do you go bid?
How often we go to bid?
Yeah.
So once we do this bid and we select the supplier at the price and the term, that's when we'll know when we'll go back to bid. So for the southern tier aggregation I keep talking about, the price that was the most advantageous was a 24-month price. So that program will go out to bid after about 18 months. We want to make sure we bid the southern tier area again so that we can have a supplier starting when the initial 2-year term ends. So it'll be the same for this region, but we won't know if the 3-year price or the 2-year price, which one is the best until we see the bid come back.
How many suppliers are there?
Well, there's over 100 suppliers that are licensed with the Public Service Commission that can bid on this type of a program. And we put a lot of requirements in our bid. We expect the supplier that wins the bid to have a 24-hour customer service number, because just if somebody's working the night shift and they get off their shift and they get home and they open their bills and they want to call, just like they can call the utility at any hour, we want them to be able to reach their supplier.
And they have the right to use the lines?
Mhm.
I'm sure National Grid owns their own line.
Yes. So we're talking about National Grid owns the infrastructure, right, and the delivery system. And these suppliers buy and sell electricity and send it out to customers.
Do they make any money on it?
I'm sure they do, yes.
So the successful bidder of an energy service company,
It's an
the
escrow.
term would be what, a year? Is it yearly?
The term may be, usually a year is too short because we've, gone through the process of getting all of these communities to, usually the better price is 2 to 3 years. So we're talking about a fixed price over a 2-year period, potentially longer. We ask them for a 12-month, 24-month, and a 36-month price, as well as a sweet spot pricing. So if they can provide the best price at 27 months or 23 months, we want to see what that price is. Another thing that we did in the bid is that we require the supplier to beat the previous 12-month average utility rate. So the variable price that the utilities offered over the last 12 months, we ask them to beat that. We also ask them to beat the previous 5-year average. So we're looking forward at pricing. We don't know what prices will do future going, but we can look back over the past year and see what they did do. And this is an actual pricing before we went to bid in the southern tier, looking back at a price spike we had during a winter with an extreme cold, polar vortex or whatever they called it in the weather that caused electricity prices to spike, and we experienced that in this region in 2014.
So for this to happen, 2 things have to be. It has to be approved by the city, and also you need so many participants.
Well, the city's approval guarantees that all eligible residents will participate unless they opt out. So we need the city to first decide to explore it and then decide to enact a local law to enable it. But then there's no guarantee of how many residents stay in it. everyone can opt out if they want to.
How does solar influence the pricing?
Well, if you're currently a community solar subscriber, I don't know if community solar is a thing in Watervliet, in some communities it is, or if you have rooftop solar installations, you can still participate in the CCA. Is that what you were asking?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, you can still participate, so that portion of your bill that's unserved by solar, you, instead of being billed the utility variable rate, you would be billed the CCA.
Is there like an average cost savings per household or some sort of estimate that you've gotten from Southern Tier?
We don't have estimates, right, because we're looking at historical pricing in order to, we're looking at historical price curves, and then we're looking at a future looking as a flat fixed rate. So we'll only know how much money people saved after the program ends, and we calculate what that utility variable rate ended up being. And so the first place to ever do CCA in New York State, a lot of other states have done it, California, Illinois, Texas, Massachusetts. The first instance of CCA in New York State was a pilot project run down in Westchester County. And they reported, Westchester, Sustainable Westchester, which is the group that ran it, reported $11 million in savings over their first term of their project. Now, that's a different utility territory and prices are much different down close to New York City, but that was the first example we had in New York. Now there's a few other CCAs popping up in the Hudson Valley, some in western New York, and ours that's running in the Southern Tier. But it's just been since the summer. And we don't like to evaluate it on the short term because you can look at this period and CCA is a raging success. We just saved all these people all this money. Or you can look at this period and say, what the heck, I just paid more than the utility variable. So the program is designed to provide budget certainty, price stability, and to get you a lower fixed rate. But we don't guarantee savings. We don't guarantee a certain amount of money. Because again, we're talking about the supply portion of your bill, which I don't know if you experience this at home. I pay more for delivery in my home than I pay for supply.
Yes.
And that's something I can't affect, right?
Yep.
That's the biggest piece of the bill. That's something that the utility company owns those wires. And I can't decide how much they're going to charge me. The PSC can regulate it. But this is the only piece of my bill I can control. How much I use, and now with CCA, how much that costs, right? So what I like to tell communities is if you're doing this in order to save buckets of money, you have to have another reason. And for communities in the capital region, a lot of times their other region is to support renewables, to meet their renewable energy goals as a community. There's becoming grants available for communities that go 100% renewable. Sometimes it's a priority of the citizens. It's the ability to make this decision locally about the priorities that you have. And to have that other option is your priority protecting vulnerable populations that may be susceptible to scams. That's a priority for some elected officials, that they say, well, at least this way if you answer the phone, hello, is this Katie Vecchio? Yes, great. By saying yes, you just got signed up for some energy services scam and there's nothing you can do about it. This will guard against that. People will be a little more educated. No one in our organization ever comes door to door. No one ever calls a resident and asks for their utility information. We're here to help residents have a better option available to them than they have right now.
Is the company publicly traded?
My company, Mega, is a non-for-profit organization. Everything in our minutes are foilable, and our board of directors are all elected officials, well, and appointed. They're from local government. Question? Have we taken up too much time already? No. Well, I'm available. This is my contact information. Councilman Patricelli and I recorded some Q&A sessions. They are on YouTube. They're on Mega's Facebook. You can, if you don't want to read a lot about CCA, you can click on those and watch some short videos that get at some of the frequently asked questions. It's a new thing in New York. It's a new thing for this community, so we want to make sure people understand it and have the chance to ask questions. If you think of something later, by all means reach out, and there's FAQ documents at the door. Thank you.
Your Honor, our next order of business is a public hearing. This is a public hearing for the purpose of hearing those persons who wish to be heard regarding the estimate of revenue and expenditures for the fiscal year 2020 for the city of Watervliet.
We'll open the public hearing. So the budget was presented by Mark Spain last meeting. And for the purposes of tonight, has it changed any?
No, we're currently at 1.18% total tax rate.
Okay, so would anyone like to speak on the budget? 1.18% tax increase.
Thank you, Katie.
Thank you. Okay. That's a no? We'll close the public hearing and move on, Dave.
Okay. We move on to new business. The first order of new business is ordinance number 2017. The council of the city of Watervliet hereby authorizes the removal of handicap parking signs located in front of the residence at 202 8th Avenue in the city of Watervliet.
Mayor, I make the motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Is there any discussion on this?
This is just the removal of a handicap sign that was in place. The residents have since moved, so the signs need to come down.
Straightforward.
There's just at one time we had a discussion about all the signs in the city, and we had spoke about trying to find out, whether or not we found many of the signs that were not, let's say, legitimately in the law. Is there a way of being able to do some kind of a survey on that at some point in time? I'm trying to find out who.
So we would have to just cross-reference the ordinance.
The ordinance with the signs.
Verify with the residents that are there currently, if they were the ones that originally applied for the ordinance and whether they still meet the qualifications they have in signs.
I mean, I've seen a number of different signs, that are obviously not city, city official signs.
Yeah, Mr. Don and I went on a little site visit one day, and we walked 19th Street and took a ride, throughout the city and identified certain signs that, to our understanding, should be removed, maybe were not authorized to be placed there in the first instance. So,
Just handicap?
no, there's more than handicap.
No parking right now. Those type of things. Yeah.
Some signs that have been
Some-
affixed to trees or gates. So there has been some investigation relative to that, but it's not a bad idea to put something pen to paper and identify it, so it would be easier to draft an ordinance or take other steps in order to accomplish what you have.
Well, you wouldn't have to draft an ordinance on something that wasn't in the ordinance to begin with, would you?
No.
Okay. As long as, as long as we proceed on that, I think that's what we need to do.
Signs that may have been up there. That no longer-
Right, okay, yeah,
That
that,
didn't happen.
yes.
Yeah.
Good.
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 Dave, call the roll.
Councilman Petroselli,
In favor?
Councilman McGrattan,
In favor.
and Mayor Manning.
In favor.
The second order of business is ordinance number 2018. The council of the city of Watervliet amends section 168-2.4 of the code of the city of Watervliet.
Make a motion to accept ordinance number 2018 as written.
I'll second it.
Discussion?
Yeah, so this is a proposal that I had in relation to the bulk pickup for the city of Watervliet. Currently, the code tells the city that we have to do 2 bulk pickups in the city of Watervliet yearly. This proposal would reduce that to 1 bulk pickup per year, which gives us some flexibility. It doesn't mean that we only have to do 1, but it mandates us to do 1. So I wanted to give the council some deliberation to decide whether or not we wanted to reduce the required number of bulk pickups in the city of Watervliet. So just let me add further. The original reason that I looked at that is because I wanted to see how we might be able to further reduce taxes in the city of Watervliet. And obviously there's dollars that are directly assigned to the bulk pickup, especially 2 bulk pickups. But what I wanted to do was I wanted to make sure that we left the dollars for the 2 bulk pickups in the current 2020 budget, so we still had at least the opportunity and the means to do 2 in the case that, you know, we decided going through the 2020 year that we were still going to do 2 bulk pickups.
What did it cost us, this second pickup last week? Do you have a price on that?
I don't think we've gotten the tonnage yet.
Tonnage or?
Yeah, my only concern was that I kind of agree, we've had some discussions over the number of pickups and the way we do them, and I think it really needs to be reworked. And I fully intend to kind of look at this a little bit further and redesign it to extent, you know, we had some pickups, we had the fee challenge, we've had the coupons and things like this, and although I think this is a stab at it, I think I would much rather see it reworked once and then try to fix it at the, this coming year. So right now, as I say, I prefer not to have the resolution now, and let's handle it next year, but redesign it. I think we're all in agreement that we need to cut back and fix some of the problems we have to. I think we've also talked about the way the material comes into the city and how to handle that. I think that's something I think we can address. Let's say by the time we have to do another decide on it.
My only problem with this is the fees for dropping your trash off at the city garage. I believe $10 and $20 is very low, especially if you go to a landfill. It's much more than that.
I mean, that's what it is now, so
Yes.
just so you understand, it's not anything new.
But I think it should be raised somewhat more.
And that's what I'm thinking about, that all that has to be built into it. I think we can address it and rework the whole thing. I totally agree with you, Frank.
So, Councilman Groudy, to answer your question, the bulk pickup on Monday, November 25th, I got the numbers from Chris Dawes. We were just a little over 200 ton of bulk items.
200. It'd be nice to compare that to last year or springtime or so.
This is up from the first bulk pickup in 2000.
200 ton or 20 ton?
200 ton.
It's a lot of.
Because I thought there was something I thought was 15. What was the number? Do you remember what the tonnage was last year for the spring pickup?
Get those in line.
I know it probably went up. I know it was higher than last year.
You know the cost per ton?
It's almost $200 now.
Now it's like 65.
65.
No, the ton, for the trash.
Yeah.
Oh, for the recyclables.
64 tons.
64.
About $12,000.
Yeah.
So, it should be, we gotta start driving down. It's just unlimited. We've been doing this for a while and it's not going down. And it's just, I don't throw out a whole living room set every year. I don't know about the rest of you, but.
Did you start that?
Throwing a lot of stuff out?
No, no, no. Did you start? Just bulk, trash bulk pickup, was that
No, I think it was always there.
always there?
I just had a crazy thought. Maybe we should buy the incinerator back from Casmore and start burning.
Just gotta get a burn permit, yeah?
Well, I think when we had waste management, I think they just about picked up everything.
I don't recall.
Yeah, I don't think, I don't remember having a specific bulk pickup time with waste management.
It's a possibility.
Well, it's, I guess we gotta call the roll on it, because we moved on it.
Councilman Patricelli?
Opposed?
Councilman McGrattan?
Charlie, you want to investigate this further?
Oh, rework the whole thing. I fully intend to kind of have something fairly similar to what you have, or restructure it with also with the fees. We also had that discussion, I think, when we discussed about before we, we're going to have a bulk pickup.
Can we just table this till next meeting?
What will be?
Not right now.
Not right now.
It's first reading, so
Right.
it's not going anywhere. No pressure. It's the perfect time to vote.
Against?
Mayor Manning?
In favor.
Okay. Next is Resolution number 9689. The Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves a grant agreement between the Stanton Foundation and the City of Watervliet for the City of Watervliet Police Department to establish a K-9 unit and to cover the costs associated with such a program, and further authorizes and directs Mayor Michael P. Manning to execute the same.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we move on this resolution.
I second that.
Discussion?
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to meet with Chief Girassi on a couple of different occasions in regards to the K-9 program. I must say, as a former police chief, I understand the value of certainly the K-9 program and what it would bring to the city of Watervliet. I think my only concern right now is the fact that that there's some costs that have to do with the Fair Labor Standard Act and how it affects the reimbursement for an officer on a yearly basis, and any other associated costs with the grant. There's specific sections in the grant that authorizes $1,000 per week reimbursement for the municipality for training, but it doesn't, and maybe Chief Girassi can answer this, it doesn't necessarily say whether that's part of the $25,000 or if that's in addition to the $25,000.
So sure, so it's not part of the $25,000, so the $25,000 would be given right up front, and then we would get, the city of Watervliet would get 16 additional $1,000. So $1,000 per week for 12 weeks, and then 4 additional weeks. So it's really $41,000 grant.
But
yeah, I'm sorry.
the extra 4,000, it says up to 4,000. It doesn't seem, it doesn't say you will get 4,000.
So they've communicated with us, and they've assured us that we'll get the additional $16,000. So this is a great opportunity for the city and for the police department. No other grant or funding opportunity exists for the establishment of a K-9 program. So the Stanton Foundation is obviously a private foundation based out of the state of Massachusetts. Frank Stanton founded it. He also founded and created CBS. He was a pioneer in TV and network television. So the only states that can take advantage of this is Rhode Island, New York, and Massachusetts. And the funding is specific for the establishment of a grant, of a K-9 program. So currently in New York State Homeland Security, those funds and those grant opportunities don't exist because we don't have an established K-9 program. So there is zero opportunity for us to get any funding through New York State at this moment. We did explore working with our federal partners. The Border Patrol was willing to work with us and give us a, and I put quotes, a free dog. The problem with that is, as you see, we have a model budget here. There's a number of ancillary costs that are that we incur as the city. You know, a kennel and some other items for the dog, food, equipment. The good news is we already have a commitment from a local veterinary hospital that has promised us zero cost for vet care. So the model budget has it's for 3 years. It shows that it costs about $2,400 in total. So $800 a year, but we don't need to budget for that because we have a commitment from a local vet that they do not charge for police dogs. So this is a 3-year model budget. Based on my assessment, the city would incur no cost for those 3 years, and they do have a pretty huge coffer that we can go back and seek funding for. They also have, because I know we're exploring this in the city, they also have grant funding opportunities for dog parks. 90% foundation and 10% matching from the city. Currently, they state it's only for the state of Massachusetts, but I'm sure if we become good partners, I don't see why that would be an opportunity to explore.
You say this is for 3 years. The K-9 officer agrees to commit to serving as handler for 5 years. So we have to be in this program for 5 years, for 3 years?
So the dog, ideally, we get a green dog, which means a brand new dog. Ideally, that dog is going to last more than 5 years, has 5 good working years. So they don't want us to get a dog for 3 years, and as soon as this funding cycle ends, we get rid of the dog. But the establishment, and I have the model budget here, the establishment is really where the cost is incurred. The year-to-year maintenance is not that great. You'll see the startup cost is really where it affects us. Just to your point about the Fair Labor Standards Act, there's a ruling out there called the Garcia ruling, and it requires the jurisdiction to work with the handler, come to an agreement. So tonight, the resolution just accepts the $25,000, but then we're going to have to come back to the table with another resolution to come to an agreement between the city and the handler. So I'm not looking to incur any more costs. There's a number of, I don't know if you want to talk about it now, but every city does it a little differently, but it's based on the Garcia ruling. And you don't have to pay the officer more. You just have to give them release time. It's 30 minutes a day to care for the dog. So that's what the Garcia ruling is. But once again, we're not trying to consider any of those considerations tonight. Tonight is just to accept the $25,000 because we can't go any further. We haven't posted the job, obviously. We can't go any further without entering an agreement with the Stand Foundation. And we wouldn't be as far as we are without the support of the mayor, so I appreciate that. Just to even apply for it, the mayor had to submit a letter of support, so thank you for your support early on. And the support of the then general manager, Jeremy Smith. So there's been a couple months of the process, and so definitely valid concerns. I think we can, as a city and a department, come to an agreement before we actually develop the unit.
I also noticed here on number 11 here that we have 180 days, like a leeway to, if we don't send somebody to school, we can opt out, kind of. So Charles, when he's the mayor,
Yeah.
decides not to send anybody to school, we have to give the money back, which, So what we're doing tonight is just opting in.
Opting in, correct.
And we're totally understand between us that this is not going to be an overtime issue of significant amount to really be a detriment back to where we were.
Correct.
Because that's definitely a major concern that I have. I think the program is a great program, but can we afford it and can we continue it?
Yes.
Thank you.
Ready for the vote?
The officer and the dog out to other communities?
So currently, right now, we do rely on other communities, Town Colony, City of Troy, State Police, Albany County. So just like anything else, last night we had an incident where we had to call the FBI, the State Police. They were here within 15 minutes. So we rely heavily on each other. So we're not in the business of saying no, especially if there's a missing child or accident circumstances. But we really want to be self-sufficient here. We don't want to rely on those other jurisdictions and other agencies.
But will we be lending them out to other communities?
I wouldn't say use the term lend, but if we get a call for assistance, then by all means, I would be there to help.
Do they compensate us for that?
So they do not. There are programs that exist where we're compensated through the county, but we are not compensated.
The officer who is chosen as the handler, is he or she taking off the normal routine?
So another great question. They are going to be considered part of staffing, but it's a really involved process even selecting the officer. There has to be interviews done at the home, interviews with the neighbors, inspection of the home to make sure that it's a good facility for the health and welfare of the K-9. But no, they're considered part of what we call manpower, or shift strength. So they're not separate and distinct. They would, if you called 911, they would respond.
So when the car is, his shift is to ride in the car, he would have the dog with him.
Yes, sir.
Questions? All right.
One more question.
You can have that.
5 years he's got to give to the dog, correct? What happened if he opts out for whatever reason?
So this could be part of that secondary resolution, secondary agreement, because there are jurisdictions that will allow police officers to have it for 6 months, get promoted to sergeant, or go to another specialized assignment based on contracts. So we would really, I would not like to see that happen. This is a big commitment.
Yeah.
So I would try to secure that in that wording of the,
So this will turn into the contract, part of their contract?
It'll be an MOU. So it'll be an MOU between the collective bargaining unit and the city water Watervliet.
I'm ready to go. Okay, no more questions.
Okay. Dave, call the roll.
Councilman Patricelli?
In favor.
Councilman McGratty?
In favor.
Mayor Manning?
In favor.
Resolution number 9690, the Council of the City of Watervliet hereby approves a use and dissemination agreement between the New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services and the City of Watervliet Police Department, and further authorizes City of Watervliet Chief of Police Anthony W. Gerasi and/or his designee to execute the same.
I'd like to make a motion to accept resolution number 9690 as written.
I'll second it.
Any discussion?
Sure, it's just a standard agreement between us and the Division of Criminal Justice Services for access to criminal histories and fingerprint inquiries as well.
Any questions, comments? Call the roll, Dave.
Councilman Patricelli?
In favor.
Councilman McGratty?
In favor.
Mayor Manning?
In favor.
Your Honor, that concludes the new business for this evening.
And appropriations accounting? Blank? Nothing? We have a public hearing. Anything before public comment?
I have a couple of thank yous for our Christmas tree lighting is Saturday, 5 to 6:30. A thank you to National Grid for a $1,000 donation, which gave us the ability to have the horse-drawn carriage again this year. Price Chopper for their donation of Italian wedding soup for consumption on Saturday. And a special thank you to Matt Ethier from Watervliet Housing, who's allowed us the use of some apparatus as well as personnel to help us clean the park to get it ready for Saturday night.
Good stuff. Okay.
I am sorry that I'll be missing the tree lighting, but
You'll be there in spirit.
I'll be there in spirit, so have a good time.
Okay, Dave, let's go to public comment.
Okay, at this time, the council has authorized the public comment period. If you wish to address the council, you must step forward, state your name and address for the record. You have 2 minutes to address the council on any matters you wish.
Rebecca Williams, 1525 Fifth Avenue. I just want to thank the DPW for the job they did. I think they worked phenomenal with all the Facebook complaints and stuff like that. People are just ridiculous. Those guys work 12-hour shifts on and off, and it's always what it is. You just deal with it, but I just want to thank them for that.
Thank you very much.
Very nice, thank you.
For anybody that hasn't seen them, Mark Katie's in the back of the room.
Thanks, Mark.
At Crucial, 2433 Philip Way. My topic is snow removal. And I live on Broadway. It's a truck route.
and it didn't get cleared till last night. I don't know if it was a mistake, but cars could only go down single file. And I don't know where it is on the schedule. I know you have a schedule who gets done first, but I do believe Broadway is one of the streets that gets some priority. So if we have another snowstorm, I hope it gets moved up. It was a mess.
I thought 32 got.
It's not 32.
Second Avenue Street.
But it was tight, Pat.
Sorry.
We got all that traffic at 97, 87, so I mean,
Yeah.
it's busy.
Mark that down, Mark.
No, it's not a complaint against the personnel that, you know, they work hard, but for some reason, we got left out in that area.
Yeah, traditionally, you know, what our issue is that we have to deal with, you know, try to schedule around rush hour traffic, so we have the ability to get the larger trucks through there to clear the snow. The way Broadway is scheduled is we do the avenues first, starting from 3rd, working our way west, 3rd, 4th, 5th, 6th, and then we come down and do Broadway before we do the streets. Usually the timing of that is there's less traffic when we get to that, so it's a lot easier for us to move through the area. We had some issues with apparatus yesterday. I would like to thank, which I was remiss in doing, County Executive Dan McCoy. We actually approached the county because we wanted to see if we can get a beefier blade for the loader. County actually did us one better and gave us a truck, a large truck, and 2 personnel to operate the truck. So we had some issues with the functioning of that piece of machinery, which delayed us because with the amount of snow we had and the sun that we had 2 days ago, it became a lot heavier for us to move, especially with the trucks that we have. You know, Hank probably drives Mark Cady probably drives the biggest truck that we have, the loader, and we were having a hard time staying on the tracks and pushing everything to the curb. So a part of that had to do with the delay of us getting to Broadway in a timely fashion. I can tell you that in years past, it usually fits right in from the schedule standpoint when we hit Broadway because there's less traffic at the time of day we hit it and it allows us to move through pretty quickly. So that's one of the reasons that we had the delay this year.
Good. Anybody else? All right then.
Don Whitehead, 1921 8th Avenue, Watervliet, New York. Again, compliments to the crew for the job they did. But now I have to talk about the notice of the snow removal. Very confusing. I got 3 messages telling me that snow removal was going into effect the next day. Then I find out the next day that it only is going to be in a certain part of the city. And after I dug both of my cars out, after I've been plowed in, and to the point that I got them out and would not be able to put them back in, I had no place to put them because 19th Street had been designated as a no parking zone for the day. So, and I listened to the Nexel, I listened to Chris Chartrand's message, and I read the message on the Watervliet homepage. And next, please stop telling us to go to the social media. Not everybody is on social media to find out all these fine little details. We pay Nexel, let them do it. As far as the plowing goes, 8th Avenue, they went down 8th Avenue and they're 3 feet from the curb on both sides of the street, which means every car is sticking out in the road. And I'm wondering whether or not the garbage truck is going to be able to get down the road tomorrow, because there's no room. They only come by with a small truck. A lot of snow to move, I understand, but they did not really do a good job of moving it. to the side, up on my sidewalk like they usually do. So, but again, I understand what you're up against, the amount of snow that had to be moved and what happened after the sun came out. But still, the notification needs to be refunded.
You want me to note that too?
Are you having grass pickup tomorrow? Are we having grass pickup tomorrow?
No.
No.
Okay. Does anyone else want to say something? All right, we'll close the public comment period and
I'll make the motion, I'd like to go into the executive session for a personnel issue.
Second that.
who's going? Who you want there? Mark, Spain, Jordan Newton, Mike McNill, and us?
I think that's it, yeah.
All right, who seconded it?
Second.
Call the roll, Dave.
Councilman Patricelli?
In favor?
Councilman McGrowdy?
In favor.
Mayor Manning?
In favor, we're adjourning to executive session, which happens here, so we have to clear the room.